Hi everybody. I am going to sit down, stitch a little bit, and film a video for you. Basically, this is a voiceover. Unfortunately, I live by a road, and whenever I am trying to stitch, it's really noisy outside. I'm not sure how you hear the sound of my recordings when I film during the day, but it's like I have the only time I have to stitch in a quiet environment is when I am stitching at nighttime. So I don't want to wait until nighttime to film this tag because while I'm still really alert and awake, I really want to answer these questions, but I am going to stitch and like render these two clips together so you will be able to hear me answer questions and maybe hopefully hear some stitching sounds. I know that a lot of people like stitching sounds pretty well because I am going to stitch and film the ASMR video at later on tonight. So sorry for the voiceover, but still, let's chit chat. Anyways, this tag is really interesting to me. I was really excited when I found it. It's called My Ideal Haed. The author is a Russian girl called Oksana Yermakova, and basically she says that you can change the name of this tag to whatever I don't know, maybe designer you would like. You can use Haed, you can use Himera, you can use Golden Kite, whatever big project you are stitching, and it doesn't matter what you answer. Me, I love large projects. I am loving Heaven and Earth. I used to stitch a lot of it. Right now I'm more a Himera type, but let's just go flow with the questions. I've already filmed this video on my Russian channel, and now I want to film this, an English version. So let's try answer these questions. Okay, so question number one. Your favorite author? My favorite author as for stitching right now, it's Himera. I know that I always say that I love Heaven and Earth designs, and I do. There are so many beautiful pictures or projects that you can choose from these days. I am seeing amazing designs that are coming out now on Facebook, and I did go on the Heaven and Earth design site and saw amazing, beautiful, colorful designs that they created. But unfortunately, I don't really think that I'm going to buy any more charts because I have quite a big collection of Heaven and Earth design charts which I am not stitching, and considering that they all cost money, I always buy my charts. I don't think that I should buy more charts that I'm not going to stitch eventually. So the next time I will be purchasing from Heaven and Earth design site, I might get the full kit. So maybe I will save some money. I'm sorry, and really get some, a full kit as a project, and not just a chart from them, so I can know that I am going to stitch. Basically, it was always Heaven and Earth design. They have amazing designs, really detailed, but if I'm talking about these days, I am in love with Himera. I have a big, not a big, but quite a big collection of Himera charts, and I am loving stitching them because they are having beautiful designs. I won't say that they're worse than Heaven and Earth design. They're a little smaller and maybe have less colors in them, but they have a lot of blends, and the outcome is amazing. So these days, my favorite author or designer is Himera, but I'm like looking around different kits and designers altogether. Okay, question number two. Your not favorite author? Basically, I don't think I have unfavorite author or designer. I do think that I'm having a little trouble with dimensions, even though everybody loves dimensions. I don't really find myself in that designer and with that company. I do like some of their designs, but there I didn't find until these days. I didn't find anything that I really was excited about stitching. There are again some cute designs, more of a Christmassy, like Santa Claus and stuff like that. They have a couple of beautiful socks or Christmas socks. How do you call them? Um, but again, it's not something that I really want to buy. Plus, the dimensions kits are much more expensive. So I have a lot of designers that I like much more than that. Maybe they're not that expensive, but there are, to my taste, they're much better. So that's about it. I don't have anybody that I don't like. I just have companies that I am not really connected to their designs. Like even Estee and Golden Kite, I love the outcome of their projects. I mean, I saw them stitched and they are so beautiful and so detailed. They look like painting, but I don't find myself in these designs. So maybe they're not my favorite. Maybe they're just not my taste. So that's about it. Next question. Sorry, I'm just kind of translating as I go. So if I'll be thinking for a little while, just sorry. If you're not going to be stitching Haed, why? Basically, I am not stitching Heaven and Earth designs lately. The main reason for that is that I am not stitching from a page or a PDF chart. I am stitching a digital charts, and at some point I started creating or maybe transforming my Heaven and Earth design charts into digital charts by myself. So using Pattern Maker, I created my own digital charts when I was still stitching Heaven and Earth design, and then they just got deleted because I was stupid enough not to save them somewhere safer, and my computer was eaten by a virus, so everything, all the files on my computer were dying. So basically what I have what I've done is just quit stitching Heaven and Earth design. I do stitch from a paper sometimes. I do stitch my kits, which are on a printed. I'm sorry for the noises outside. Hopefully you can hear my voice better than them, but it is daytime. It's about 12:30, so a lot of cars and buses are driving around. Plus my windows are open, so sorry. Anyways, the main reason I'm not stitching Heaven and Earth designs is because they don't have digital charts. I actually wrote to Michelle from the website and I asked her if they are going to create or is there a way to purchase a digital chart from them. If there was, I would have done that in a second, but she said that they don't use that and they're not planning on doing that, and I think that's a bad idea. I think that a lot of stitchers these days are using programs to stitch with, and I think that will be a really good idea for them to sell PDF files along XSD files or Saga files. That will be much more comfortable for those who are stitching from a program or something like that. Okay, question number 4. How long do you need? How much time do you need to decide if you want to stitch a Haed, Golden Kite, or other designers? How much time do I need to decide that? I don't need time to decide that. I just need time to stitch it. Plus I need the materials because Heaven and Earth designs, you can purchase a full kit from them, which is much more expensive. I have tried to do that, but it ended up costing something like almost $200, and in Israeli money it's really expensive. So to save $200 to buy a kit, I really need to save some money, put that aside. So that's basically my main reason why I am not stitching that. And it takes me a while to figure out if I want to, because the materials cost a lot of money. In Israel, all the materials cost a lot more than in the UK or in Russia. So basically, I need to buy everything from abroad and get it shipped. And considering the situation right now with the pandemic and stuff, it's really difficult to do. I don't know if everything will be much easier once this video comes out, because I am kind of filming videos to be uploaded a little bit later on in case the baby comes before. But still, I think that I don't need a lot of time. I just need to find a design that I really, really like and be able to collect all the materials for that. Okay, question number 5. Your ideal size of stitching, finished or do you stitch larger projects? I do love really, really big projects. I don't like, it's not that I don't like, I do prefer larger projects. I think that the outcome of the larger designs is so much more beautiful because it's really detailed and it has a lot of color in them. I do like stitching smaller designs. I used to say that I will never do that, but it's kind of fun sometimes to take on something really easy and just stitch it really fast, and you can see the outcome much faster. But I love large projects. I do stitch Himeras, which are really big. Well, they're not as big as Heaven and Earth designs, but they are practically the same. And I am ready to stitch a large design that takes me a long time to stitch. My finished Heaven and Earth design, the Final Fantasy, the Asian Fantasy one, is so beautiful, and I was stitching it for 4.5 years. So I am ready to make some time to stitch certain designs. All the larger designs are stitched for a very long time. My Himeras are also stitched for a long time. So if you have a couple of projects especially, it will take you much longer to finish than if you would have like one design. Okay, next question. How did you find out about Haed or other designers? Basically, I don't really remember how I found out first about Heaven and Earth designs. I think I found them on Google, or their second version for that. I think that I saw some video at the beginning of my stitching career when I just started, of a woman on Russian floss tube that was stitching Heaven and Earth design chart. So that could have been my push towards their website. Or did I find it myself by just looking for charts? I don't really remember, to be honest. But other designers I actually found by watching YouTube. I was watching different vloggers. Russian YouTube has a lot of information about companies, different companies. Russia is really known for their stitching abilities, and a lot of different companies. Ukraine have different amazing companies that create beautiful designers, beautiful kits. So basically, mostly I found out from YouTube, and everything else that I have learned, I'm actually learning by myself. I'm finding out different ways to stitch, what is comfortable for me. But most of all, I think that we are learning stuff one from the other by watching videos and watching YouTube and finding new information and new ways to stitch and new designers, of course. Okay, seventh question. What is your limit in a color amount of colors in one project. Basically, I well, Heaven and Earth designs do have a lot of colors. They have like 80 something to 90, and now they also have a much bigger amount, like multicolored projects that have like 200 to or up to 200, I think, colors. Or am I jumping too far? But they have a lot of colors, and I think that is a little too much for me. I mean, I would prefer stitching a Heaven and Earth design like the normal chart with like 89 even colors, 88, whatever it comes with. But too many colors are much more, I don't know. Plus, it's more expensive and it takes a lot more time and a lot more singles. So, I don't think that I would like to do that. Though I could try, I'm not afraid to try. But you need to buy all those colors, and the threads are really expensive. So maybe the cost of it really makes a difference. But I don't know. I don't have a number of colors. I actually have a Joy Sunday kit that has 114 colors in it, and I think that's a little bit too much. But it is really, really colorful and beautiful. So mostly Himeras have a pretty good amount of colors in them, plus they have a lot of blends which help the transformation of colors to go from one another really smoothly, and I love using blends in my designs. So basically, what I don't have the amount of colors, I just have something that I would prefer to stitch, and I will not prefer to stitch a lot of, like 200 color designs. I know that Golden Kite has designs, and Estee has designs with like 200 colors in them, and I think that's a little too much. Though I've seen the final result and it's beautiful. Okay, question number 9. Um, uh, 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 do you stitch singles in projects or do you skip them? I actually try to stitch singles. I do stitch singles. As you might have seen in my projects, my Himeras have a lot of singles. Just like Heaven and Earth Designs, they have a lot of singles as well. But sometimes I do skip them. I mean, if I have a single in a color combination that you can just skip that and not waste your time on changing thread and changing your colors, and you can just stitch that in a nearby color. Why should you just do a single? Sometimes these singles are just mistakes and the charts are not really noticeable, and I don't really know why they're there. I think the designer of the chart just missed a couple of pixels that are not supposed to be there, and you could change that. You can work on the chart and transform it and make it a little better if you want to, but I do sometimes skip those charts and I just stitch it. I mean charts, those singles, and I just stitch it with a color that is close by, that you cannot really notice the difference. The only thing that I have noticed, if you are stitching a face or some smaller I don't know, like creature or some small flower or something, sometimes those singles can make a difference. So just notice what you're stitching. If it's a background or if it's some abstract design, you can change those singles and just stitch it with a different or a close by color. But if it's a detail that can make a difference, it can be somewhere like in the eye and you stitch it black where you're supposed to stitch like yellow. That will make a difference to the worst side of it. So just notice where you're stitching those singles and where you're skipping them. Which fabric do you see? Wait a minute, I'll try to translate it. On which fabric do you prefer to stitch? Let's say that. Basically, I prefer smaller counts. I prefer, my favorite count is 18 count and 25 count. So larger projects, I love stitching with half crosses. I don't know why. but I really like it. I like the final outcome and I like how the final result looks. So I prefer to stitch it on 25 count. And like normal kits, I like stitching on 18 count, like normally. Basically 18 and 25 are my favorite. The largest count is 14 count for me, but that is something that I do only in kits. And my plan is to start stitching designer charts if I haven't yet. And those designer charts are, if they are not full coverage pieces, I prefer stitching them on even weave fabric, some kind of even weave, maybe 27 or 32 count, and that way all the background around the stitched area looks really smooth and much better than it would have been if you could have seen the little squares and dots and holes on the fabric. So basically I am going to finish this question by saying that I prefer smaller counts, and I prefer when you can't see a lot of the fabric behind your stitching. Okay, so next question is question number 11. Would you make an effort on the backside of your design? The backside of my stitching, really I don't really care about. I know that a lot of stitchers try to make it really neat and not prevent rug of happening from the backside, but I really don't really care how the backside looks, because I think that it will eventually go behind when it will be framed, and nobody will ever see that. Nobody ever sees the backside of your design. So I think that doesn't really matter, but I do try to prevent a rug from happening, just because it's getting harder to pull the needle through if the threads are really tight from behind your stitching. So that's the only reason why I try not to make a mess out of my backside, I guess you could say that. But really I don't really care about an ideal backside for my projects. It doesn't really bother me much. Some really really care about that, and they're getting really mad when they see a messy backside. It sounds really stupid. Okay, question number 12. Did you think that the process of stitching larger project is difficult? I think that it is more difficult than stitching a small kit, or like some kind of lesser color design, I guess. I don't know how to say that, but I like it when it's difficult. The larger designs have a lot of colors, and they are beautiful when they are finished. So eventually they will be difficult to stitch because you have a lot of color changes. You have a chart that is more complicated than just like logical color transformations. So I think that it is harder to stitch. I'm sure that it is harder to stitch, especially for somebody who is just a beginner. It will be much harder to do, and I won't recommend a beginner to stitch a heaven and earth design on or any other large project, because you can really get sick of it if it's getting hard for you, and it's supposed to be fun for you. So I think that you should start by stitching something smaller kit or design. There are beautiful designs out there that don't have like 80 colors in them. So start with something smaller, but I don't know. I think that doesn't matter if you're a stitcher and you know what you're doing. If it's a harder process, it's even more interesting. So that's a good thing. Okay, question number 13. Did you ever feel sorry for stitching a project like that? Um, Sometimes I did, because sometimes you find a design that you seem to like, and you get all the materials and start stitching them, and eventually you figure out that you don't really like the design and you don't really like stitching that particular project. It does happen to me sometimes, and it did happen to me even now with my Heaven and Earth design, my monochrome, the beloved one, because it's gotten really to the point where I really was making myself stitch it, and I just put it aside for now just because I don't want to make myself stitch something I don't want. It's my hobby and I want it to be fun for me. So when I'm making myself stitch, nobody's paying me for that. And there are a very large areas that are stitched with black, just just the wash of black, and I think that is really annoying for me. I don't enjoy it. I would prefer more color and more, like, even a harder design that is a lot of color changes in it. But I do feel sorry about starting something knowing that maybe I will not finish it because it's not exactly my style of stitching, but I still do it. So sometimes I do feel sorry for that. But I still have the thread, so maybe I'll use it for something else. And I am not throwing that project away. I'm just putting it aside for now. And when I want to stitch it a little bit, then I will pick it back up. I did have quite a couple of projects like this during my stitching career, I guess. But some of the projects I really, really love, so I just keep stitching them and really, really want to see the outcome. Okay, next question. Are you ready to buy a chart? Or do you look for them online? Okay, I did look for a couple of charts online, but most of, like, 95 or 98% of my charts are purchased. The only charts that I have been looking up online are the ones that I already have the kits for, and I wanted to just make the process easier for me because I like stitching from a monitor. So I have a couple of charts that I downloaded for free I'm sorry, my mom just called me. And I didn't use them yet, but all the charts that I have are really legal, and I am really, I did pay for most of them. Well, not most of them, all of them. I paid for all my Himeras, and I paid for all my Heaven and Earth designs. Okay. Next question is number 15. What made you stitch a project like that? Like a larger project, I guess. Basically, I love stitching large projects. Again, I was saying that for a lot of times now. I love huge designs. I love Heaven and Earth design. I love Himeras. I love Golden Kite. I love Este. Of course, Golden Kite and Este I won't be stitching because I don't find the right design for me. But the outcome of these projects is so beautiful, and you can see a really clear image that is so fun to stitch, and it's always interesting to see it grow. It takes a very long time, but I love the process of stitching them. I love the process of stitching with a lot of colors, and I think that it's really, really fun. So I do like smaller projects these days. I used to say that I will never stitch them, but I am liking them, so I am stitching that. I used to stitch only Haeds, but then I found more designers that make huge charts and big designs with a lot of colors, and I love them. So I I just like the process itself of stitching. I don't mind if it will take me a very long time to finish. Of course, I would prefer to finish it as soon as possible, but I know that it will take me a long time to stitch a Himera. It will take maybe a year, maybe less, like if will really put myself into a project. But I just enjoy the process itself. That's why I choose larger designs like that. Are you willing to frame a project like that? Of course, I am. Right now, these days, I don't have a lot of, um, you know, I don't have the, let's say, the money to do that, because framing a good project and making a good design and good frame for them is really expensive. Israel is really expensive as for, shopping and purchasing things. That is a big problem here. And finding the right frame and framing a beautiful project is really expensive too. So once I get a little settled in my new place in my apartment, and we will have the money to spend for framing my designs and my finished projects, we will definitely do that. My husband promised me that, so I believe them. And I really do want them to hang at my place because it's a lot of work and I want to enjoy and see them. The first thing that I will be framing, by the way, and making a good frame for is my Heaven and Earth design, the Asian fantasy one that I was working for 4.5 years for. So I am willing and I will definitely be framing my designs. Okay, next question, 18. Um, your favorite theme of stitching, mystics, space, people, and more. I don't know if I have a favorite theme. I really like town sceneries, like a city scenery. I really like fantasy. I like really colorful designs. I'm not sure which theme I would prefer. I know that I don't really enjoy stitching flowers. I don't know why, though. I have a lot of designs that I saw that are beautiful, like floral designs, but I will never pick up a floral themed, project to stitch. So I think that that's not my thing. Space, I've never really seen something that I liked from space. Um, People, I don't know if I don't like stitching people. I just don't like to stitch like portraits of people. But if there are humans or some humanoids in a design that I stitch, I don't have a problem stitching that. I mean, I do have some kits and some designs with creatures in it, so I don't have a problem with that. My preference is more for a more colorful design. I love a lot of colors. I like, a lot of details in my work. So flowers I don't like, and I guess nothing else is really so obvious that I don't like. I just have stuff that I would prefer not to stitch, I guess. Now, next question. Are you ready to stitch a Haed, where is a lot of um, back, a lot of background? Okay. Um, I don't like it. Basically, a lot of the backgrounds that are stitched, like full coverage ones, are just stitching with the same color. I used to have a design, a Mona Lisa, that I really wanted to stitch, but the bottom part of it was all black. I mean, you were just washing the fabric in black thread, and it was so uninteresting to stitch that I decided not to do it eventually, because again, the details of the painting itself are amazing, the outcome is beautiful, but it's not fun to stitch with one color. Stitching white on white or black on black, or even my Heaven and Earth design, the one that I have put aside for now, has background around it, and it's like checkboard. I mean, it's not really a full cover of one color, but it's kind of a checkboard of 4 or 5 colors that all together they make like a weird color. So I'm not sure about that, and I would prefer not to stitch like a background that is just a wash of color. It's not fun, it's not interesting, and I don't like doing that. uh, there are a lot of paintings, a lot of projects, they do have background color, but it has some elements into it, so it's a little more interesting to stitch. Okay, next question. This is the last one actually. Are you willing to give a project like that as a gift? Whoa, that's a difficult question. To be honest, I may sound really bad, but no. I I did stitch a project before and give it as a gift, but it was a smaller one. It was a kit of a Yorkie that I was stitching especially for parents of our friends that have micro Yorkie like that, exactly the same. And I was basically creating it for them. But a project that I will stitch for years, I don't want to give as a gift unless I'm stitching it especially for something like for a museum or something, or if somebody will ask me to stitch a project and pay me for that, because it's a lot of time and a lot of effort. And if I will finish eventually a project that it's taking me so long to stitch, like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, I know that some stitch it for like 7 years, like a Heaven and Earth design, I have seen that. But no, I wouldn't like to give it away. I would like it to hang in my house, and I will just like to enjoy watching it. So that is something that I'm not willing to do. Um, Again, unless I am stitching it for somebody from the beginning. So that's the only reason I would have given my large and very complicated and expensive project to somebody else. Of course, if that would be my mom or something, maybe I can give it to her, but I would prefer to hang it in my house. So basically, that's about it. So these were all 20 questions. I hope that it was interesting to listen to. I hope that you can't hear too much back noises, because really it's really noisy outside, and I am trying to speak like more into the speaker, so you will get more of my voice and not the buses that drive by. But I'm not really sure. I will listen to it a little later and figure if that's a good way to go. Hopefully, I won't have to record it again. I will be stitching tonight and recording the video part for this voiceover. So that will be quiet, that's for sure, because I will be doing that a little later on tonight when the cars stop driving, start filming that around that time. It's a little annoying that we live by a road, and it's really noisy during the day. Plus, I need to open the windows to make the apartment like flow with air. So that's what I'm doing basically right now. Okay, so this is about it. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to my answers to these questions. You can answer them too. I don't know how to link the questions that I have here, because they are written in Russian, and I will have to spend a lot of time translating them to English for it to be good. But we'll see. Maybe you want to just make a chit chat video about big designs and tell us about what you are stitching and what your preferences are. So hopefully, again, it was interesting. Hopefully you enjoyed the stitch along, and hopefully you stitched along with me. Subscribe, give me thumbs up, press the bell down below to be notified when my videos come out, and we will see you in my next video. So have a great day, week, night, a weekend, whenever it is you are seeing this, and I will see you in my next video.